Hello, everybody. Lou and I thank you for joining us, and it's a pleasure to have you with us. We are continuing on our journey of chapter 13 and verse 22. Lou, you okay?
I'm doing very well. Yes.
Good, good. So this verse, we're going to be doing verse 22 today, and this verse has four parts to it, as most of these verses do. And I'll read the whole verse out to you right now, and then we'll break it down into four components, and then we'll talk about each one of those. So the verse itself says, Purusha, spirit, seated in Prakriti, matter, does indeed experience the gunas, qualities, born of Prakriti. Attachment to the gunas is the cause of its birth in good and evil wombs. So basically, what this is saying is that the spirit or life, what we call life, sits inside matter, which is the body, the mind, intellect, all of these things that we've talked about earlier. Life itself sits inside that matter and thus produces an entity, a body, a person, a jiva. And that entity experiences the qualities of Prakriti, which are gunas, which he's going to talk about in chapter 14. Very, very important and interesting chapter. That everything in the world is made up of gunas, sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. And that initially, although these qualities are that of the body, of the Prakriti of matter, that the Purusha, the life itself, starts to actually enjoy these qualities. So it says, it does indeed experience the qualities born of Prakriti. Then it says, the attachment to the gunas, the attachment of the life force, of the Purusha, to the gunas is the cause of its rebirth. It's because of the fact that the life force enjoys what it's experiencing by its attachment to these qualities in this lifetime, that it says after it dies, it doesn't die, the body dies, and the spirit, the life force, is just now free floating and says, wait a second, I really enjoyed that during that lifetime. That ice cream, that strawberry ice cream, man, that really tasted very sattvic, very good. I want to get back to earth so I can relive, create another body, and taste that again. But depending on what karmas have been done by that jiva during that lifetime, it can be reborn, but depends on what kind of karmas it did, and it then is born in good or evil wombs. A womb is the uterus of a woman. So it really, it's symbolic to say when it says womb, it's like saying, many doors are open to me. The door doesn't necessarily refer to the door. It really means that this home, many homes are open to me.
Right. Yeah.
It's a way of saying that. So womb really refers to which family, which environment can this entity be born back into. So you notice that there were four parts to this verse. The first one was Purusha or spirit seated in Prakriti or matter. That was the first. The second was does indeed experience the gunas and qualities born of Prakriti. The third was attachment to the gunas is the cause of its rebirth. And the last was in good and evil wombs. So we'll take each one of these separately. So the first one, Purusha or spirit, seated in Prakriti or matter. Now, we talked earlier in our earlier session that the spirit, life force, Atman, Brahman, God, enlivens our body, our entity. Now, we didn't say where it gets attached, or did we? I'm not sure. I don't remember if we said it or not. But
Yeah.
if it were attached to the body, right? Life force were attached to the body. When a person dies, the body dies, and the attachment of that life force being to the body, since the body fell down, the spirit is free, and it goes back to joining up with Brahman, and he's achieved nirvana or self-realization. because it was attached only to the body. It doesn't work that way. It finds, you remember we talked about the 31 qualities of matter. Matter, Prakriti, is made up of, first he said 5 elements, then he talked about 24 elements, then he talked of 31 elements. Of the 24 elements, the number 1 element is the avyakta. Avyakta means without, non-manifest, unmanifest part. That is the seed. That is the seed of the rest of everything. So life force goes and attaches to that avyakta, to that unmanifest. That is holding on so tight that it goes on for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So it's like putting handcuffs on a criminal. You know, if the policeman puts the handcuffs on the criminal's wrist, the prisoner cannot go anywhere. The criminal cannot go anywhere.
Right. Yep.
But if he puts the handcuffs on, say, his belt buckle, the criminal's belt buckle, you know, as they're walking, if the criminal just loosens his belt buckle and lets go of his belt, the policeman walks away with his handcuffs tied to the belt, but the criminal runs away.
Right.
So it is very important that however the Prakriti and the Purusha get linked together, they're linked at a point that they cannot separate. Otherwise, the whole purpose is lost. So as a result, the Purusha is tied to the Avyakta. And that is what the causal body is what. The causal body is what the Purusha is holding on to. Upon death, that Prakriti then produces another body because it's the Avyakta, it's the seed. That Avyakta seed can produce as many bodies as it wants. So take an example of electricity coming into a Tesla, an electric car, then you're driving. That electricity, as it comes in, transforms into many different aspects of the car. The car has an electric radio, it has electric heat, it has electric power that drives the car. And as it functions, these are the various gunas, let's say, of the car. The electricity says, wow, this is great. Look at me. I step on the gas. I can go much faster than any one of those gasoline-powered cars, petrol-powered cars. I can play the radio, and the electricity starts to feel good about itself to the point that it actually starts to believe that it's me that's creating these sound waves coming from the radio, or me that's producing this heat, or me that's going from 0 to 60 in like a second. The electricity starts to believe that. Similarly, the analogy that Swami Nikhilan gave is that sunlight, when it goes through the space and lands onto moon, for instance. Yesterday there was a pink moon. It was beautiful, huge. It looked so big and it looked so real. That sunlight coming through space is actually, you can't see it because it's going through a vacuum. But when it lands on the moon, the moon shines. Bam! It lands on the moon and suddenly it says, hey, look at me. All my other buddies up there, as they were coming through space, they don't have this kind of light. Look at me. I'm falling on the moon and I'm shining so brightly. He may not necessarily give credit to the planet moon for this shining. The light may say, it's me. It's all me. Look at me. I'm shining so much. Similarly, when the Purusha attaches to the Avyakta within ourselves, and it turns out that I am born as a jiva, and I have qualities, I have gunas, I start to identify with those qualities, that Prakriti, and I say, I'm the strongest man, I'm the brightest man, I'm the most famous man, I'm the most powerful man, that kind of stuff. I actually start to believe that I, the spirit, the life force, am that. I'm not. I'm really just force, an entity. It's the jiva that has those different qualities, and I have to recognize that it's not me. So I am, I exist is what Purusha starts to think. So Purusha holds on to the Prakriti at the level of the Avyakta. Okay, so that was the first part. The second is it does indeed experience the gunas and qualities born of Prakriti. What that means is the Prakriti or matter has sattvic qualities, which we'll talk about more in detail, rajasic qualities and tamasic qualities. The gunas, the qualities themselves, are inert. They're insentient. They don't have any life until Purusha, or the life force, spirit, functions through these gunas and make them come alive. This inert matter or Prakriti then becomes a jiva, a living being, an entity. Then this jiva experiences the three gunas in this world. We'll see more of this in chapter 14. So without the gunas, without life, the gunas really have no qualities. Mm-hmm. So when you have life attached to them, then they start to have qualities. The third, attachment to the gunas is the cause of its rebirth. The jiva, combination of Prakriti and Purusha, develops an attachment to the gunas. This attachment results in an endless desire, Vasnas, to possess those objects and to enjoy those objects again. The beings that they encountered during this one lifetime, the experiences that jiva experiences. Thus, the jiva person goes through constant lives trying to fulfill these desires. Now, we may not remember those desires when we come back to life the next time, but they're there within us at a deeper level, almost like in a dream, and we'll talk about that. The Vedanta actually says that we're in a deep sleep. So imagine that you are sleeping and you're having a dream. And in that dream, you dream that you are a king. You're a very famous king, you have lots of power, and you're about to have another king come to you with his massive kingdom and say, you're so powerful, Mr. King, I want to subjugate my kingdom to you and turn it over to you. And there's a big party celebration going on. You're sitting on the big throne as the king, and another king is coming with his all his treasury and his people and all his land, and going to give it to you to be the king of all the countries. Mm-hmm. And you're about to start these celebrations sitting on the throne, and your spouse wakes you up. And you wake up and you say, "Oh, what happened? Oh, I heard a noise downstairs. Can you go check?" You say, "But I was having such a wonderful dream. Couldn't it have waited?" She says, "Go check on the noise downstairs, come back, and then get back into the dream." So you go downstairs, you check, there's nothing, you come back, you say, "Okay, I'm going to get back to that dream of being the king."
Right.
Ready to celebrate. There is not a single point that I know of that anybody has been able to get back into the same dream a second time. So you go back to sleep. This time you dream that you're in Africa, in the desert, and you're thirsty, and you're a poor man, and you're dying for one date to eat or some water to drink.
Right.
And again, your spouse wakes you up. There's that noise again. Wake up. You say, "Wait." And she says, "What happened? Were you a king?" And you say, "What? No, I was a beggar in the thing." Or let's say she comes to you in the dream itself as the beggar and says to you, "What do you think you're doing? You're the king." And he says, "No, I'm a beggar. I'm in the desert. I have no water. I have no food." So Vedanta says, just like we can understand these examples of dreams, we should be able to understand our lifetimes. Use the same example.
Yeah.
That you're essentially imagining all of this happening. You are not this entity. You're not John, that is, a famous baseball player. You are actually just a jiva. It is the combination of the Purusha and the Prakriti, your life force and this body of yours, that makes you a good baseball player, that you can hit the ball, etc. People claim that you're so good. It is just like a dream. When you die, you're going to be born again. Your entity, as you're floating around looking for a new body, saying, "I wish I could be born to a great coach of baseball." But instead, you're born to a fisherman. And you say, "What happened?" Suppose if you were to remember, "I wanted to be born back there in the baseball coach's home so he could coach me baseball from the time I was 2 years old." No, you're born as a fisherman. He's going to coach you how to catch fish. So it's like the dreams. And Vedanta is so good in that way to give those kind of examples. So the attachment to the gunas is the cause of its birth. So remember that Prakriti can keep producing new bodies, but it cannot dictate where or which family or which environment you're going to be born in. That is determined by the last part of this verse, which is the person is born, the entity is born in good and evil wombs. Now, we talked before about what good and evil wombs refers to. It doesn't refer, the womb is only a metaphor. It's a way of saying, these doors are open. All these doors are open to me. It's talking about all the homes being open to you, all the families that are welcome you in there. So womb only refers to that. Technically, what it means is if you have done good karma or evil karma, we'll talk about what good and evil refers to. Let me talk about it now. Good means anything that is on the line towards self-fulfillment, towards self-realization. That is good. If you're progressing towards whatever is taught right now, that be good to others, fulfill everything that is being told that is going to take you towards your goal of self-realization, that is considered good. Anything that moves you away from it is evil. Now, all of these thoughts, killing somebody's evil, bad, this is stealing from somebody's bad, evil. That's not what the Gita or the Upanishads say. Good means going towards your self-realization. Evil, bad, means going away. So any action that is selfish or motivated to gain or from anger or for revenge or something, anything that is away from being what Christ or Buddha would have taught you or done, that is considered evil. So when you do a life full of good karmas, going towards self-realization, those result in good desires, wanting to do more of that. So good desires lead such an entity to a good birth, to a good family, to a good environment. Bad desires lead him to a wretched birth and environment. These desires dictate the course of your life. They bind you to the wheel of birth and death. This is the wheel of birth and death. You're born, you die. You go die with desires, you get born again. But that second birth now is based on what karmas you did. So this was a short one today, Lou.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
So knowledge or a degree of self-realization helps you to detach from your vasnas and your gunas, which lessens their attachment in your next life. This is part of the path we're following, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the question.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. This is what this is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I didn't. Yeah. So when as you get this knowledge, if you were to apply it to your behavior, and every time you want to do something that is selfish, try to pull yourself back and say, why would I want to do this? This is selfish. I want to do something that is good for myself to reach my Atman, my Brahman, my self-realization. As long as you stay on that path, this knowledge will follow you in the next life. So even if you go from 0 to kindergarten, you're ahead of the game because that much better for your next life.
Excellent. I love this episode because it explains how these qualities go with you into the next life, which is something that hadn't really been talked about before. So I love this. This is great.
I'm so glad, Lou. So glad. Wait till you get to chapter 14. You're going to love it.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
And check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, on Spotify. If you're listening to the Facebook Live version of this, if you're on those podcasts, there is a Facebook Live version on Gita, Memoirs of a Psychiatrist. That's where you can leave us a direct message or a message on this particular episode or any of the other episodes. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much, friends. Bye-bye. See you next time.